NIKKEs that can upgrade their collection items to favorite items are among some of the strongest units available to us, but the upfront cost of requiring Limit Break 2 and an SR15 doll is quite high. So knowing which NIKKEs you're going to use is extremely important, or else you risk wasting a lot of resources. There are 21 NIKKEs with favorite items, and they are not all made equally. So in this video, I'm going to show you which ones I believe everyone should get and briefly go over their kits. There are 4 that I think stand head and shoulders above the rest. Not only that, but I think the best one is also one of the easiest to obtain. So that's where we'll start, with Helm. Skill 1 will give Helm's full charge shots a ton of extra burst generation, as well as a modest amount of healing to the entire team. Skill 2's attack damage that Helm provides when entering full burst will be more than doubled compared to her default version, and she'll now deal bonus damage with every full charge shot. The damage dealt by her burst skill will increase by nearly 8 times of its original amount compared to her default version. And in addition to that, she'll gain extra charge damage for several shots. So with Helm's favorite item, you get a unit with several universal support effects and massively increased damage compared to her base skills amounts. She's frequently used in burst for her unrivaled lifesteal effect for the whole team, and her damage is excellent as well. But so much of her kit is also active when she's not bursting. The amount of burst gauge that she generates is immediately noticeable, and the attack damage plus critical rate she provides will have a high uptime as well. Her healing isn't anything crazy, but it's enough to trigger Crown's skill 2 and keep the team topped off. This is a unit that I use all the time. Something like 90% of my campaign stage clears use her. I also use her in every single solo raid. She's absolutely essential for the Elysian Tower, and I think she is the absolute best unit that you can get from favorite items. I'm not even going to bother showing team compositions for her, because you can just use her anywhere. In burst, off burst, it doesn't matter. Just go and get Helm's favorite item. So now let's do a quick build guide. For her skills, I think she's worthy of a 10-10-10, but if you're looking for something more cost effective, then you can go as low as 4-7-10. The base values on her skill 1 are already extremely high, but they still do scale well. You won't miss out on too much damage by leaving her skill 2 at 7, but for her burst, I would absolutely push it to 10. She gains so much damage with each level that it is absolutely worth it. Overload lines are pretty standard, 4 elemental damage and 4 attack. If you want 12 lines, then go for charge speed lines. Helm has several effects that trigger with full charge shots, and her crit buff activates when she fires her last round in the magazine. So for that reason, you should avoid max ammo. Her cube should be the resilience cube, and then the destruction cube is a good second choice. Avoid using Bastion. So now let's move on to a different unit. I think there's one other unit in addition to Helm where I'm like, yes, absolutely no question, everyone should have this unit. And in this case, I'm talking about Privity. Skill 1 will gain an attack damage buff for the whole team when entering full burst. Skill 2 will increase the multipliers of her triggered effects, and she'll also deal bonus damage to enemies hit by her burst skill rather than having it be reliant on hitting stunned enemies. And finally, she'll apply a damage taken increase to whatever enemy she hits with her final bullet. Her burst skill's damage multiplier will more than triple. All targets hit by her burst skill will become designated targets, which will trigger her skill 2 and reduce their attack. And the cherry on top of this is that Privity will gain a massive amount of bonus elemental damage. Much like Helm, this is a unit that I use a lot. She provides so much to the team while dealing a significant amount of damage, especially in water weak content. Whether she's bursting or not, she'll provide reload speed, a damage taken increase, and attack damage. I also consider her essential for the Elysian Tower, and I use her in every single solo raid, just like Helm. I do think that Privity works pretty much anywhere, but she's especially good when grouped with machine gun units. and you can use her as a substitute for Maid Mast in teams like that. Here are some teams that I've used her in. Maid Mast with Rappy Red Hood, Treasure Privity, Treasure Helm, and Maid Anchor. This is a team that I use very frequently in the Elysian Tower. Crown, Star Anise, Rappy Red Hood, some kind of Burst 3, and Treasure Privity. And this is kind of a general use team for Privity. And then for the third team, I have Mint, Star Anise, Snow White Heavy Arms, Treasure Privity, and Prika. And this was a team that I used not too long ago in a Water Week solo raid. Now let's look at some investments you can make for Privity. I think that 10-10-7 is a good stopping point for her skills. Her burst is definitely worthy of a level 10, but she's really only used in burst for Water Week content. Overload lines are 4 times elemental damage and 4 times attack. Big surprise. And you should definitely avoid max ammo on her because she has a reliance on last bullet mechanics. Her cube should always be resilience, and you should definitely avoid using Bastion. So now we have 2 more NIKKEs in my top 4 that I think are very, very good, but might be a little more or less important depending on who you have available already. So the third NIKKE is Morin. Her skill 1 will reduce her burst skill to a 20-second cooldown instead of 40, and her skill 2 will give her burst skill CDR. And then on top of that, her burst skill will now also provide the team with a caster's attack buff, and Morin regains the ability to take cover while bursting. That's a really weird limitation to have in the first place. But anyways, Morin's favorite item makes her a viable and effective solo burst 1 unit, in addition to giving a okay amount of attack to the team. The fact that Morin can constantly taunt the enemies, heal herself, and reduce the damage that the rest of her team takes is usually enough to forgo any other forms of healing for the team. This makes her exceptional for higher deficit stages or bosses that like to bully your highest attack NIKKEs. However, when it comes to high deficit stages, there is a point where even Morin's defenses can't keep her alive, so it's better to just use someone like Star Anise or Siren. There's a bit of a sweet spot of difficulty where Morin just makes the game brain dead easy for you, but once you go past it, she's kind of useless. But regardless, she remains one of the best choices that you can use for Tetra Tower. There aren't a whole lot of general use teams that I can recommend for Morin, because her use case is for specific bosses or high damage stages. I will say though that it is very interesting to use Neuda with Treasure Morin to effectively let Morin heal the whole team with Neuda's heal share. You can also combine it with Helm or Ada to get some truly insane amounts of team healing. But with all that being said, you can use Treasure Morin pretty much everywhere. Her kit is very self-contained in the sense that it doesn't have a lot of synergy with other units, but it works well with everyone because it's all about keeping damage off of her allies. So now let's look at the build guide. I think that 7-10-10 is a good place to stop for Morin. Her skill 1 will contribute a bit of extra damage and defense, but it won't contribute much to her overall performance as her personal damage is pretty low and the defense won't contribute much to her survivability. You could honestly leave skill 1 at level 4, but that's only if you're feeling extra cheap. Her skill 2 should be maxed because this is where her CDR is at, and her burst skill is the whole reason for using her and is where most of her value is packed, so definitely max both of these skills. For overload lines, I'd say don't bother re-rolling them unless you've gotten to the point where you actually want to optimize the damage of your low output units. Elemental damage and attack are fine. Max ammo is literally useless since she has unlimited ammo during her burst. Crit stats and defense are just filler. For cube choice, you can just give her the highest level cube that you have, which will probably be resilience, for the elemental damage bonus alone. Vigor and Tempering Cube are great for her and would be optimal choices if you're not using your highest level cube for the elemental damage. If Tempering and Vigor are your highest cubes, then more power to you, but also, like, what are you doing? And now we get to the last NIKKE with a favorite item that I consider exceptionally valuable. It's a recent addition too, and that NIKKE is Flora. So let's take a look at what changes with her favorite item. Skill 1 will now increase her adjacent allies' max HP without healing them for 2 seconds. Skill 2 will now increase the duration of her true damage buff from 5 seconds to 10, and whenever she receives a shield, she will give adjacent allies a caster's attack buff. Her burst skill will now additionally give everyone a sizable caster's attack buff as well. Flora's issue before her favorite item was inconsistency. She's always had a decent kit, but it relied on healing allies back to full HP to trigger them. This issue is fixed with the change to her skill 1, but not only that, she also received a huge caster's attack buff to give to her allies. Flora has healing, shielding, bonus true damage, and attack buffs. She also has some more niche uses by increasing electric allies' stackable buffs and a very short max HP buff. When I gave my impression of this character, I said that she got much better, but she's still niche because of the 40-second cooldown on her burst skill. I still do think that limitation is significant, but she is more generally useful than I originally thought. Flora can use her constant healing and shielding on your highest attack NIKKEs to protect them from bosses that want to bully them constantly. She'll even give them upwards of 130% of her attack to them as well. This is an insane amount of bonus attack, and it only gets better with dupes on Flora. And if that unit also happens to deal true damage, then they're going to get an extra 73% true damage from Flora. And the potency of these buffs will still be at about 1/3 of their value when she's not able to burst. So who do we pair her with to deal with that pesky 40-second cooldown? Well, Crown is probably her best pairing most of the time. Crown doesn't need to burst every rotation, especially if you have someone providing shields. This is an extremely effective pairing, but I'd like to think that Flora is most valuable to people that don't have Crown. But everybody has Naga, right? Much like how Naga abandoned Tia for Crown, she can now abandon Tia for Flora. Flora will always have shields available for Naga, so even when Naga is bursting, she'll get the bonus effects from her kit that rely on shields. I think that because Naga is so easy to obtain, this makes Flora very valuable for newer players. You can also use Takina and Flora together. Both of them will buff true damage to some pretty insane amounts. And for a new addition, you can use Maxwell Ordinary Mechanic with Flora, and you can even use both of them in a way to supercharge burst skills that scale off of max HP, kind of like Cinderella or Laplace Ultimate Hero. And these aren't the only ways that you can use Flora. She is a very potent character. But finally, let's talk about the build. For her skills, 7, 10, 10 is a solid investment. Her skill 2 and burst skill provide huge amounts of offensive stats, so these skills should definitely be maxed first. When it comes to overload gear, I don't think it's very important for her to have optimized lines, but any max ammo, elemental damage, and attack that you can get will be helpful. They're very much not needed though. Equip her with a Bastion or Resilience Cube depending on if your team has reload speed or not. And now, what about the other 17 NIKKEs with favorite items? Well, most of them are used for very specific purposes or are just so outclassed by other units that it's not really worth building them at this point. And instead of just talking about them all, I wanted to talk about the ones that I think are most worth it because it is a question that I do get asked pretty frequently. Anyways guys, please like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. I hope this video helped you out. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!